We are in the final days, if not the final hours, before your fantasy football drafts this year. So we are going to make sure you are fully prepared by revealing our final top 40 running back rankings for the 2025 fantasy football season. We will go through each and every single one of them and place them into tiers. Now, fellas, 40 players is a lot to cover. So we're not going to go super in depth on each player. We'll breeze through a majority of them, such as these players in the S tier. Do you really want to listen to us sit and tell you how good Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Saquon Barkley are? No, you really don't. But if you got to pick one of these running backs in this tier that you love the most, which one is it, Cameron?
Well, personally, it's Jahmyr Gibbs, but from a fantasy perspective, I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is like the most fun player to watch in the NFL right now. But from
100%.
fantasy, just volume-wise plus receiving upside, I think Bijan kind of takes the cake right now. I think he's going to show that he's the premier back from both of those, and obviously efficiency and touchdowns will follow.
Yeah, Ty, which one are you choosing out of this tier?
I'm going McCaffrey. I've really been on the McCaffrey train from the start, and I just think that you want the top overall player in fantasy. McCaffrey gives you the best choice when he's healthy, or the best chance to do so when he's healthy. And you talk about excitement too. Like, this offense will give him the ball 50 times a game if they really had the opportunity to.
And he's like, the 49ers running backs have just been dropping like flies. I mean, I know they just traded for Brian Robinson Jr., but
give it a week.
You don't have Jordan James. You don't got Isaac Guerrero, who was in playing special teams during preseason and managed to re-aggravate that shoulder injury. I mean, they're dropping like flies over there. So Christian McCaffrey is like, outside of Brian Robinson, the only healthy 49er. And I don't think Brian Robinson's going to come in and limit Christian McCaffrey's workload when the 49ers literally cannot keep anybody healthy right now. Look, I got Bijan at 1. I've got Gibbs at 2. I've got McCaffrey at 3. I've got Saquon at 4. Give me your final order for all these players, because we all have them in different orders.
I got Bijan 1, McCaffrey 2, Gibbs 3, mystery player at 4, and Saquon at 5.
Okay. I see. Yes. Yes. A mystery player at 4. Yes. We will get to him momentarily. Ty, give me your order quick and then we'll transition.
Yeah. CMC, Bijan, Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs.
So the point is you can't go wrong with any of these 4, right? We're not going to sit here and give you a deep analytical dive on these players, because you can draft any of these 4 in the first round. They are going to be 100% quality additions to your roster. So let's move it down to the A tier, where we get to have a little bit more of a discussion. Devon Achane, Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown, and Bucky Irving. Yes, that's a lot of names to keep track of if you're an audio listener. So if you want to come over to the YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you are here already, turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content is up. Look, I said 5K before the start of the season. We only got 1 week left, but oh brother, you all poured out your support last week. So we are so grateful for all of you. Again, we want to provide you our insights on fantasy football, but really we want to remind you of the fun and camaraderie that comes with the game that we all love, that we all bond over. So I would appreciate it if you join us on our journey. Cameron, who is your mystery 4th player here?
It's Devon Achane, and I think he has the best chance, probably outside. I do think he has I'm going to say Gibbs has the best chance to be the next McCaffrey, but I think Achane's probably a pretty close second. I think Achane will replicate the receiving work that we saw from those crazy first 2 big McCaffrey years, where he was, pushing like 140 targets. I'm not saying he's going to get 140 targets, but if there's any running back I'm going to pick to get close to that, it's Devon Achane. It sounds like he's, going to be perfectly healthy. Jalen Wright can't stay healthy, so it's just him and Ollie Gordon in that backfield. We know he's explosive. His splits with Tua last year, Ty, you dropped this a couple times. What was it, like 22 points per game or something ridiculous?
22.
Exactly. So you can't go wrong when he's on the field. Obviously, smaller back, so injury concerns a little bit, but I'm going to bet on him being healthy and bet on Miami kind of playing at what they have been when Tua's healthy, and Tua staying healthy this year. So I know that's a lot of bets for some of you, but for me, I'm willing to take it.
Okay, so let's talk level of concern, though, because he is dealing with a soft tissue injury. Mike McDaniel said he's not worried about his week 1 availability. I'm not anticipating Devon Achane is going to miss any time, but to have that pop up late August during the preseason, like, raises enough of a yellow flag for me where I brought him down just slightly in my projections, not where he's any lower than my running back 5, but I did bring the efficiency down just ever so slightly. Let's go scale of like 0 to 10. 0 is you literally have no concern whatsoever for Devon Achane with this soft tissue injury. 10 being I'm literally not touching him with a 120-foot pole. Now, each of you should respond to this because I'm curious about both of you.
I got him at a 2. I think calf injuries have just become so big, especially after the NBA season, where it's like we're not risking anything. And for a guy like Achane, you didn't need to see any more from the offensive side. So I do believe it was just more precautionary than anything.
I would say it's probably a 3 for me because I don't necessarily think that like we're going to see a 90% Devon Achane right out of the gate in week 1. I think it's just more so that the risk that there are some games missed is just slightly higher. But I think in terms of the immediate week 1 production and projections, like I'm still going to have Devon Achane like borderline top 5 on for week 1.
I mean, when you look at the other guys in the matchups as well, I mean, the Dolphins dropped the Colts in week 1. It's a relatively good matchup for Devon Achane there. Yeah, I'm with you, Ty. I'm between a 3 and a 4. I think I would be sitting at like a 3.5. I'll just be perfectly honest on that. With that, I'm just not excited about an injury popping up this late in camp. If that gets aggravated at any point during the start of the season, that automatically impacts the following weeks, anywhere between weeks like 3 to 8 that could linger and impact the results. So we'll see how healthy he is, how aggressive and efficient he comes out week 1. But I'm sitting at like a 3.5. But at the same time, is the calf injury preventing either of you from drafting Devon Achane ahead of an Ashton Genty or Derrick Henry? Derrick Henry is going ahead of both of these guys in your home leagues.
I'm still taking Achane before him. Obviously, I have Achane ranked ahead of Saquon. I think I'm still going to take Saquon ahead of Achane, even though I have more total points, just because I think Saquon, even coming off, with the regression and all that I've talked about a couple of times, I still think he's safer than Devon Achane right now. But he's my highest in this A tier for sure.
I would also take Achane still. It's definitely a little bit closer, but I think I like the upside. Again, 22 points per game when everything is healthy, even if it's not the high flying offense as it was a couple of years ago in Miami. That kind of upside, I don't think we're going to be getting out of it Derrick Henry or Ashton Genty.
And to provide context, the reason why we love Devon Achane this year is simply his usage in this Miami Dolphins offense. If they can't establish a run game, the short, quick passes become the extension of their run game, which is where Devon Achane was thriving last year. And right, like in a perfect world, we get this season where he's super efficient like he was in his rookie season, and we get the receiving volume from last year, which is just like automatically fantasy football breaking RB1 overall upside. But again, that's why we talk about the calf injury, because we know that could hinder that upside for sure. I do want to talk about Derrick Henry. He's a guy we haven't talked about that much this offseason. We spent a few episodes talking about Ashton Genty, but Derrick Henry, like, what gives here? Why is he only at running back 7 for us when the situation in Baltimore is, I don't know, can I say relatively unchanged? I think we're going to expect a lot of the same from Baltimore this year. Maybe not an MVP season, level season from Lamar Jackson. But what gives? Like, why is Derrick Henry only the running back 7 when he could easily find himself in this S tier, Cameron?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the fact he had 18 touchdowns and 1,900 yards on the ground, and he just doesn't have the receiving upside to kind of insulate from slight regression. Right? He's my running back 9 currently, and I still have him statted out for over 1,350 yards and 13 total touchdowns. That's a fantastic year. What is he? He's gonna be 31 this year, 32.
32, I believe.
Yeah, 32. So like still an unbelievable year for a 32-year-old running back. It's just if he's not getting 18 touchdowns and almost 2,000 yards, it's just hard to make that up when you get guys like Josh Jacobs who get 1,300 yards on the ground and another 400 or 500 yards through the air. So that's just where he's a little bit lower, but still he's in this tier because he's right next to these guys. It's just slightly lower than some of the other guys on this list.
Yeah, Ty, can I say you have him the highest when our consensus ranking is 7th? Cam has him at 8. I have him at 7. You have him at 6. What puts him ahead of these guys like Ashton Genty, the Josh Jacobses of the world for you?
probably just because he's on a Baltimore offense that is still relatively unchanged from last year. And like Cam said, we're bound to see some regression. We're not going to see 18 touchdowns from Derrick Henry this year. Like you said, we're not going to see an MVP season that has 4,100 passing yards, 41 passing touchdowns from Lamar Jackson. But that being said, I still think Derrick Henry can still put up monster numbers where you can kind of pinpoint the downfalls for the other guys kind of behind Derrick Henry. For Josh Jacobs, the Jordan Love aspect, right? So it's kind of a Walmart Derrick Henry in the sense of just being a just downhill runner in fantasy talk in fantasy terms. Jonathan Taylor, wild card, like they're again, like because of the offense, there is a higher floor that I'm willing to give to Derrick Henry compared to the Green Bay, Indy, Cincinnati, Tampa offenses.
Now, Cameron, I want to come back to you because you have Jonathan Taylor much higher than Ty. Maybe much higher. Ty, where do you have him at 10? I'm shocked how low I came out on Jonathan Taylor a little bit. I have Jonathan Taylor down at running back 12. You have him up at running back 6. So go ahead and give the bull case on Jonathan Taylor, because I think for a lot of people, they're saying target Jonathan Taylor in the late second round. I don't necessarily hate that pick, but I have a hard time taking Jonathan Taylor ahead of a Chase Brown, ahead of I don't want to say ahead of a Bucky Irving, because I think they're similar in a lot of ways. But why are you still so bullish on Jonathan Taylor this year?
It's two parts. It's one, it was kind of getting a little worrisome of, hey, is he ever going to bounce back, to what we've seen from him before? And the end of this season kind of made me realize, okay, we can. And then, but the main part is their quarterbacks have been so bad. I don't care who's starting. I understand they're not, they're both going to eat into rushing attempts, but they're going to be built around running the ball, because if they're built around passing the ball, they're going to win 0 games. I mean, that's just matter of fact when you got Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson as your 2 quarterback options right now. So I think he could lead the league in rushing attempts. I mean, he had 303 rushing attempts last year and missed multiple games. So he's just a guy that they're just going to continuously feed. And so for me, it's just a volume play of, I understand receiving is going to be a little lower. He might not score, 18 touchdowns, but I think he can be a guy who, even on a bad team, is going to still put up, 12, 13 touchdowns, just because he's good when he's around the goal line, right? He's able to find the end zone. He's able to make things happen himself. Whereas, when we talked about some of these other volume plays, back when Najee was on Pittsburgh, it was kind of like, oh, they're not very good. They don't score a lot of touchdowns. Well, Najee wasn't making things happen. Jonathan Taylor is one of those guys who's a special running back who makes things happen. So that's why I'm not as worried about touchdowns with him. But yeah, for me, it just truly comes down to volume and the fact that I think he's going to continue to be an efficient runner who's going to see probably 350 to 400 touches this season.
Any concern around the missing offensive line pieces now, with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries both going to the Minnesota Vikings, both playing along the interior of that offensive line, where Jonathan Taylor might not have as easy of a time in between the tackles? Understand that they've made a few adjustments to help that out, but 2 longtime pieces for that team that are now gone. I think that boils into the equation for me a little bit. I think it's different than missing a tackle like Bucky Irving is for the first few weeks with Tristan Wirfs. But any level of concern around that for Jonathan Taylor? Because to me, that means something.
Yeah, maybe a little bit efficiency wise, but I don't think it's going to stop them from running the ball as much as they're going to. They showed last year they went 30 of 30 and 30 attempts essentially with Jonathan Taylor the last 3 games. Like, I could see them just first 5 games, he's almost at 150 attempts, because they're just we can't move the ball through the air. Let's just give it to Jonathan Taylor and hope he can do something with it.
I mean, and if you're Shane Steichen coaching for your job this year, you should probably just try and give the best players the football and hope they save your job for you, right? And that is Jonathan Taylor for the Indianapolis Colts. Again, I have my concerns. I'm much lower on Jonathan Taylor, but we won't exhaust a conversation around Jonathan Taylor to make sure we have time to cover a whole lot of other players. We talked about Chase Brown at nauseum this offseason, all right? If you don't understand that we love Chase Brown, literally go click on any of our previous running back videos you will probably hear a bit on Chase Brown. But I do want to close out with Bucky Irving, because as much as he's everyone's darling, Ty, people love drafting him. Boy, can I be honest? Like I don't want to spend a second round pick on a guy who's missing debatably a top 3 tackle in the league for the first part of the season. Like I don't think we understand how much that actually impacts the efficiency of an offense.
Yeah, now I will just kind of call out that maybe it's not being applied the same to Omari and Hampton. For a lot of other people, they're willing to look at Hampton and give him the pass because they're missing. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying I've noticed people are.
No, you're implying that my bullish ranking on Omari and Hampton compared to you two.
Who, me?
You are definitely,
No,
you are
me.
definitely indirectly applying that. I know you are.
I think the point that when it comes to Bucky Irving is that there are a lot of people that are, I don't want to say that they're bullish on a year 2 jump for Bucky Irving. But what I think where my concern lies is that I'm not exactly sure what the ceiling is, because I feel like it can be a tale of 2 seasons for Bucky Irving. There's going to be the sans Tristan Wirfs part of the season, and then there's going to be when Tristan Wirfs actually comes back. And I'm going to be much more willing to bet on when Tristan Wirfs comes back into this offense rather than right out of the gate without him. I'm not saying that Bucky Irving is a bad player, but I just think, like you said, if it's going to impact the efficiency, that impacts the ceiling for a guy like Bucky Irving. So I don't know if exactly we can get into the top 5. And honestly, if I'm kind of looking for running backs in the second round, that's kind of what I'm hoping for with a running back. That's why I'm so bullish then on Chase Brown, because I can see the path more clearly. But for Bucky Irving, because of factors around him, I'm just not completely sold that it's going to be that easy of a jump for him.
Well, and you're missing Tristan Wirfs, which we've already mentioned. Rachaad White is going to play a role in this offense, and I say a role because I don't want to overblow the role that he's going to play. Like, Bucky Irving is the better player than Rachaad White. We all know that. We all saw it with our own 2 eyes. We don't need to debate that, but he will play a pass catching role in some capacity. How much is kind of to be determined yet, but that also plays into Bucky Irving here as well. But this is it seems like a very kind of cookie cutter top 11. You can order these dudes however you want. The top 4 pretty set. This range of players, I don't care how you order them. I'm not going to yell at you if you got Devon Achane behind Josh Jacobs and Ashton Genty and Derrick Henry. I get it. Devon Achane isn't for everybody. The B tier is probably even more so. Because this is how do you even title this tier? It's a massive tier of players where I'm just kind of like, if I miss out on any of these top 11 guys, I want 2 of these guys for sure if I leave my fantasy football draft. Because after this is where I really do think it starts to fall off at the running back position. So everybody bear with me. I've got a crap ton of names to read here. It's Alvin Kamara, Kyron Williams, Omari Hampton, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, James Conner, James Cook, Travion Henderson, Chuba Hubbard, and RJ Harvey. Cameron, where do you want to start in this year? I'll give you freedom of choice here. Talk about whoever you want.
I'm not going to talk about Kamara because we just did. But I don't think we've talked a ton about Kyron Williams.
No, we haven't.
As of late. And
we have not.
It's really because he's just boring, right? He got the contract, and so he's going to see volume, and he's going to score touchdowns, but it's not like running back 1 overall upside. He's not going to really fall outside he won't fall outside the top 20 without injury for sure. Probably won't fall outside the top 15 even. And so, I mean, maybe like running back 16, 17 is like his floor. So it's just like, there's just not a lot of wiggle room for where Kyron's going to go. But if Sean McVay's showing anything and then they put their money where their mouth is, feed him 18 times a game, give him 3 or 4 receptions, probably score a touchdown, move on to the next one. It's just kind of the same thing over and over with Kyron.
Are you in that same boat, Ty? What I'm noticing is I think people are putting 2 and 2 together in that regard. All right, he's got the money now. He'll get the touches. He'll likely rack up the touchdowns if they're running inside of the red zone. Yet people are just like top 7 again for Kyron Williams. I'm just not there. Like, I don't think it's that simple to just say copy paste another Kyron Williams top 7 season because of the attempts and the touchdowns. I'm not as pro Jarquez Hunter as I was once upon a time this offseason, where I thought, Hunter could seriously eat into more work than people were expecting. I think he will play offensive snaps. I think he will take a piece of work, a small piece of work from Kyron Williams, but I'm no longer in the camp that, Kyron could potentially be in danger of falling outside of the top 15, despite where my projections have him. But I'm also not there of just like, block him in top 7 again, Ty.
Yeah, I do think that there's enough work lost to Jarquez Hunter between the 20s that impacts the ceiling for Kyron Williams. Because in the past, we've said it's literally just Kyron Williams. So not only is he getting all the work between the 20s, you know exactly what you're getting in the red zone. It's a little bit different this year because of the Jarquez Hunter component. But the other piece of this, Kyron Williams led all running backs in red zone touches last year with 77. I don't think that happens again. You don't just go out and sign a guy like Devontae Adams and still give Kyron Williams. Exactly. You don't give Kyron Williams 70 plus touches in the red zone then. So I think because there is the threat of losing just enough work between the 20s. I'm not saying it's going to completely go to Jarquez Hunter. I'm not saying that Jarquez Hunter is going to finish with 150 plus carries this year either. There's just enough to go to Jarquez Hunter, and there's just enough red zone work that goes elsewhere in this offense that Kyron Williams, his ceiling, very similar to Bucky Irving, Kyron's ceiling just isn't the same. And I'm more willing to bet that he's going to finish right around where he's being taken rather than jumping into that upper top 11 echelon.
And the thing that people keep coming back to with Kyron and the Jarquez Hunter thing is we already played this game with Blake Corum and we were all wrong. What you have in Jarquez Hunter is not a carbon copy Kyron where you're still just running the exact same thing every time. Jarquez Hunter is a completely different profile of running back than a Blake Corum, than a Kyron Williams. So you're trying to get him, like you said, Ty, explosive touches, explosive opportunities in between the 20s because he's much better at creating those than a Kyron Williams is based on his skill set. So not necessarily are we saying, hey, Kyron's shot, he's just going to lose goal line touches and he's going to lose short and distance and he's going to lose in between the 20. It's mostly like, how are they going to get to inside of the 20-yard line? I don't see it being Kyron every single time like it's been in previous years. I think you're going to get a little bit of a Jarquez Hunter sprinkle in there as well. So that's all we're trying to say. I don't think you can just copy paste top 10, top 7. Can you copy paste top 12, top 13? I think that's a fine bet to make on Kyron. All right, let's keep looking down this list now. We already talked about Amari Hampton as a running back you need to draft before he breaks out this year. That video's over on our profile. We just talked about Ken Walker as a league winner, also on our channel. A lot of news has been coming out about Breece Hall this preseason. And news, a lot has been interpreted from the way in which these Jets running backs have been used in the preseason. Braylon Allen coming in on third downs. Isaiah Davis hasn't been out there, but in his first preseason game, he was out there playing third downs. And we were all kind of worried if Breece Hall didn't have this 70 plus target season, we might be in for a disappointing season from Breece Hall because the receiving work seemed like what would keep him as a fine pick as like the RB12, RB13 in your home leagues. Now, if he's not getting that third down work, Ty, I'll start with you. This is bad news bears for Breece Hall, and all of a sudden, I don't feel so bad about having him as my RB19 this year.
No, I'm with you on that. I think the only positive outlook that you can have for Breece Hall is that who's the wide receiver 2 on the Jets? Who's the guy behind Garrett Wilson? And I think it's logical. I think it is completely fair to say that like Breece Hall should be the number 2 guy in targets in this offense. And we saw a guy by the name of Alvin Kamara last year finish as a top 6 guy in points per game with 89 targets, but only 6 rushing touchdowns. I feel like that's kind of the hope that you have to have for Breece Hall is that he sees 80 plus targets. because the touchdowns won't be there. The efficiency. I'm not willing to bet that like we're going to see Breece Hall have an all-time efficiency type year just yet in this Jets offense, because I think this offense will go as far as Justin Fields takes it. So can you make the bet? Like, if you're in on Breece Hall, it's because you think he can get 80 plus targets. I can't get there myself because I just don't think that this offense can support a player like that, while also supporting Garrett Wilson, who's supposed to be the breakout wide receiver because he's back with a college quarterback. Like, there's a lot of
42% target share this year for Garrett Wilson. That's what I keep hearing.
Goodness gracious.
Leads
So the Jets
league
are going
in target share.
So the Jets are going to the Super Bowl. That's what I'm hearing.
Wow.
All out of everything that comes out of the Jets camp at this point. So I can understand people willing to take the chance. Again, it's just not for me because I just see a bunch of other names in this tier and I'm like, I'm willing to take some other chances.
Now, I don't want to put you sign you up for something you really didn't ask for here, Cameron, but it seems like throughout the offseason, you've been much more willing to defend some of these New York Jets players, like a Garrett Wilson, like a Breece Hall. So where do you sit on Breece Hall then? Because like I said, RB19 for me, Ty's pretty much said, I'm out. I don't really want to touch him if he's not going to get the receiving work, if Braylon Allen's going to siphon into that, if Isaiah Davis is going to siphon a piece of that as well. It's tough to create the case. So where are you at on Breece Hall? We talked about him. If the players, if Breece Hall was too risky of an asset to invest in, have you changed where you've landed since that episode?
I really think he has running back 1 overall upside. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, wow. All right. I want to see you die on this hill quick.
Currently have
everyone in Miles Sanders sucks. You heard that, and expect 3 different trade offers with Breece Hall in them tomorrow morning.
Hey, but I currently have him as my running back 13, which is probably a little high. To be fair, the next
That's
5 running backs,
That's right at cost right now.
Right at cost. And to be fair, the next 5 right behind him are all within 8 fantasy points. So like that's a touchdown going either way. A couple 50 80 yards going either way. So he could easily be my running back 17, and I'm one bad eye. That's why, right, obviously with this tier, I'm not too worried where he's placed. For me, the upside just comes from the fact that Aaron Glenn keeps coming to, hey, we're going to use him in receiving ways you haven't seen. And you pair that with like, oh, that might just be coach speak. But like Ty said, they just don't have a wide receiver 2. Like I just legitimately don't think they have another option if they want to move the ball. They have to use him in the passing game. Because whether you like it or not, whether you think Breece isn't the same after the injury, he is their second best player, skill position player right now behind Garrett Wilson. That's just by default because they just don't have anyone else. Maybe you can make the case if he doesn't look great and Braylon Allen looks good that it is Braylon Allen later down the road. But I think we see a little bit of a resurgence here from Breece this season. I still think he's going to see 200 carries. I have him for over 70 receptions or 70 targets, not 70 receptions.
Ooh,
70
I was going to say,
crazy.
wow.
But
okay.
For over 70 targets, and I only have him scoring 8 touchdowns. So I think it's in with the realm possibilities that he does return on value. Being like a top 7 guy feels like everything has to go right. This whole Braylon Allen thing's blown out of proportion. Receiving works crazy. They're scoring touchdowns, and it doesn't feel like all of that's going to happen. So even though I do him as my running back 13, it's really hard to see a world where he's cracking top 10 just because of how this Jets team is going to function.
It just feels like it's going to be one of those frustrating battles that we have all season long where we all know Breece Hall is probably the second best, if not the best weapon the New York Jets have on the offensive side of the ball. We see that as a watching fan of the NFL and a fantasy football player as well, but the coaching staff has their own way in which they want to deploy and utilize all these running backs and maybe aren't in love with Breece Hall in the same way a lot of us are. And I'm worried we're going to be fighting that frustrating battle all season long of like, but he's the best running back on your freaking team. And it's probably not that close. And the coaching staff is like, yeah, but Braylon Allen has some juice. Isaiah Davis can catch the football. We want to make sure they play, and it might just end up being one of those battles all season long. If you want to get some reps in before you start drafting in your actual home league, you can do all these mock drafts on other platforms, but they're not going to be against real people for real prizes like they are over on Underdog. Real people invested in trying to beat you in fantasy football to win prizes. So you know they're going to be sharp ADP. You know it's going to be competitive. Let's take a break here from Underdog on how you can join them on their platform. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, home of Best Ball Mania 6. There are $15 million in prizes up for grabs, with $2 million going to first place and another $1 million going to second place. Entering is super easy. You join a draft with 11 other people, select your team, and Underdog will automatically generate your highest scoring lineup each week. Essentially, you get all the fun of drafting with zero stress of making the wrong decision on who to start. Underdog hosts a variety of other contests as well, ranging from $3 entries to $500 entries, so there's something for everybody's pocketbook. If you're not on Underdog yet, use the code FELLAS when you sign up, because they'll give you up to $1,000 in bonus credits to play with, and we'll give you our 2025 draft guide for free. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. All right, fellas, we have a few more names to keep cruising through in the B tier here. We left off on Breece Hall. Let's jump back in. We talked about James Conner a little bit as being a mid-round steal. Let's do like maybe a minute or two on James Conner. He's such a boring click for people, but I'll be honest, with where he's going in drafts, Ty, he's almost a correct pick every single time, in my opinion.
Every single time. He's been a top 15 running back in points per game each year that he's been in Arizona. In the past 3 years, we haven't seen over 9 rushing touchdowns, and he's still been a top 15 guy. And some years he's been a top 10 guy. Like, this Arizona offense, I'm not going to sit here and go, it's going to be copy and paste from what we saw last year. But everything in this Arizona offense is built from the run game, is built from James Conner. So I'm not going to lie. It feels kind of wrong to have him as my running back 18 this year when I know that he can be a top 15 guy. So maybe I'll just put the label of Trey Benson gets more involved, and that's why he doesn't have, the same upside. But James Conner, I feel like people, again, are still either too scared of the injuries, or they just don't think that the Arizona offense is worth investing in, which I know is false, because everyone loves Trey McBride. Everyone loves Marvin Harrison Jr. But for whatever reason, we just don't want a piece of this Arizona run game that is one of the best run offenses in the league.
And under Drew Petzing has constantly said James Conner is getting the workload. He's the workhorse. We're going to feed him. We're literally going to run the brakes off of him. Now, I understand as the summer has gone on, there has been a little bit of Trey Benson steam coming up. James Conner is the head of the Trey Benson fan club, apparently, saying, "Oh yeah, expect a big season out of Trey Benson." It's okay, but I think the coaching staff knows, James Conner, you are the best running back on that team. I do think Trey Benson needs a little bit more development before he's actually ready to take a larger role in the run game. Look, as far as I'm concerned, James Conner he's one of the I don't want to call him a pure bell cow, but we talk about the bell cow is kind of dead. It seems like he's one of the guys who's still locked into getting that level of volume for his offense. There's just not as big of a threat looming behind him. Objects in mirror are not as close as they appear for the case of James Conner, unlike a few other players as well. Maybe a James Cook, mayhaps, Cameron, who did get the bag, got himself a nice 4-year extension, $48 million extension with the Buffalo Bills. That change your ranking for him at all, or did it stay around the same range for you?
I just need a sec to gather myself before I answer this. I just got an email from YouTube TV that Fox might pull out of YouTube TV, and I might lose college football and NFL football if they can't figure out on Fox with our YouTube TV subscription.
Well,
so
that's some BS.
That's earth-shattering as of right now. I mean, we got NFL lockouts, and now we got TV broadcasting lockouts. This is the worst thing in the world. But anyways, James Cook, sorry, just breaking.
Not a sponsor. That we wouldn't be talking about YouTube
Exactly.
TV. It's a sponsor if we were concerned about that.
Neither are sponsors now. They're out the window. We're NBC now. But yeah, James Cook, I like him a lot. I think he's going to get yards. I think he's going to get the ball. It's just again, it just always comes down to touchdowns with Cook. Last year was touchdowns, so he scored a lot. I just don't see him as a 12 plus touchdown guy, and I have him closer to 10. And so that's really what it comes down to, because he doesn't get extremely high receiving work because Josh Allen doesn't check the ball down a ton. He might get 1,500 total yards. It's just if you're only at 8 or 9 touchdowns, that just is going to hold you down, and especially in half PPR rankings.
To me, James Cook was always probably going to get paid. Like he's not the player that Le'Veon Bell was when Le'Veon Bell was holding out and wanting his massive contract, right? Like I don't think a running back is ever going to get that crazy with the holdout like Le'Veon Bell got, right? So the fact that James Cook, I always thought James Cook was going to get paid. Maybe you question it a little bit more as the offseason goes on, so you tweak the rankings ever so slightly. But for me, it was like James Cook was always going to get paid. You named it. There's always touchdowns. He's not. There's major touchdown regression coming. Still like I think a fine pick at ADP, but like I don't think he's just like an absolute smash at ADP. Doesn't have like a great chance of outperforming that this year. Travion Henderson, if you haven't heard, he's really good at football. Looks really good in the preseason. We talk about him all the time on this channel. You should probably draft him. Chuba Hubbard is someone we don't talk a lot about on this channel. He feels like how we think people think James Conner is a boring pick. Chuba Hubbard, you're nodding in agreement. Like feels like almost just like a vomit boring pick. I'm just like, oh gosh, I clicked Chuba Hubbard. I don't hate it, but brother, what am I actually getting out of Chuba Hubbard this year? And that's a question I'll pose you with.
Oh, geez, the $1 million question with Chuba Hubbard this year. You're getting the James Conner of the Carolina Panthers. To be completely honest, like I see these guys like not in terms of the fantasy outlook, I like situation wise the exact same. You know that these guys are the workhorses or the guys that are going to be the dominant rushing down guys in their offenses. And a lot of people I will say that Chuba Hubbard actually should be maybe a little bit higher just because of what we saw last year, that the guy was a top 13 guy. So it's like, what is the worry with Chuba Hubbard? For me, it's just that I think there's enough of a threat in the receiving work for Chuba Hubbard that goes to Rico Dowdle that Chuba's ceiling just isn't the same as it was last year, because last year it was only Chuba Hubbard. There was no Jonathan Brooks. There was no other competition there. Now that we have a Rico Dowdle here, even though the contract may not look super big, he's enough of a presence to me that for Chuba Hubbard to lose enough receiving work to Rico, again, it impacts the ceiling. The stat that I use, that I commonly refer to point or to say that he will lose receiving work, is that Chuba Hubbard only averaged 4 yards of reception last year. That's not good. That if you're trying to generate some explosives in the passing game, which is what Carolina has been kind of hinting at by taking a Tedero McMillan in the draft, I don't think you're going to be getting it with Chuba Hubbard. So it is really just it's a difference in ceiling this year compared to what it was last year when we finally saw that it is the Chuba Hubbard show in the backfield.
RJ Harvey wraps out the B tier here. We've talked about him in previous episodes as well. You can go back to our channel and find a multitude of videos covering RJ Harvey. I believe we talked about him as a breakout running back as well. So you can go check that out. C tier, we'll finally get out of the B tier and talk about a fresh group of players here, fellas. This is the definition of the meh tier. Every player in this tier, you click and you're just like, meh. Cameron, who's your favorite player to draft out of this range of players right now? And maybe that's how I'll have us handle this tier. It's Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift, and Tony Pollard. Who's your favorite player to draft? Ty, I'll come to you with the same question as well, so you can start thinking.
I wouldn't say I have a favorite player to draft out of this.
If you got to click one out of this year, which one are you clicking?
That's and honestly, I go back and forth between all of them. That's my biggest issue. Is I just don't have, like, they're all kind of meh. Tony Pollard is sneaking up a little bit now with the Tyjae Spears news that he's in a walking boot currently, so he's gonna get tons of volume. I've been clicking a lot of Caleb Johnson as well, just because I assume he's going to get more volume. I assume he's going to outpace Jalen Warren in a scheme where they're going to run heavy. But I'll kind of land on Isaiah Pacheco as the guy that I think has the best upside case if he can return to what he was pre-injury, just because their running back room sucks, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's never a bad thing to have a part of that offense. So that's kind of where it comes with Isaiah Pacheco. I think even if he's 85% of what he was pre-injury, he's probably going to be a pretty good bet because nobody on that roster is going to beat him out for running back touches this year.
Well, Ty, I think your pick was probably going to be Isaiah Pacheco with how much you've loved and appreciated him. Who and you can correct me if you're wrong. Maybe the player you did choose is someone not named Isaiah Pacheco, but outside of Isaiah Pacheco, who is it for you?
Well, so yeah, it was going to be Pacheco. I think it's between Tony Pollard and Aaron Jones for me, because I think, again, you can make the case that Tony Pollard, just a pure volume play out of the gate, is going to be valuable, to say the least. But Aaron Jones, I think I would give the nod to, just being in the next best offense out of all of these guys. And I know that he has the Jordan Mason threat, but I'm willing to bet that because of all the moves that the Vikings made this offseason, that they are going to lean a little bit more on the run game and get Aaron Jones a little more involved. I shouldn't say a little more involved, but keep him involved in the passing game enough, especially when you look at Jordan Addison's suspension right out of the gate. So I lean towards Aaron Jones, but I definitely would understand a shout for Tony Pollard.
Yeah, the Tony Pollard one is fascinating because it does seem like, well, Tyjae Spears, when he comes back, he'll be playing a role. But like, I don't know, man. What if it's just like last year and Tony Pollard just gets a crap ton of touches and he just kind of ugly volumes his way to a flex spot, an RB2 spot on your team every single week? Like, that is totally within the range of outcomes in an improving Tennessee Titans offense. Aaron Jones, I'm 100% with you. I think they keep him involved in the receiving game. He's going to be JJ McCarthy's best check down friend on passing downs, right? To me, that's a no-brainer. We all kind of like danced around, or you both kind of danced around Caleb Johnson a little bit. I think this was such a valid point that Josh and Hayden over at the Underdog Football Show pointed out. When you draft Caleb Johnson, you're not just drafting Caleb Johnson. You're also drafting the Steelers offensive line, because Caleb Johnson, we talked about this in our running back profiles for these prospects coming out. Caleb Johnson's vision is so good in zone scheme. He can find the hole and hit the hole. And once he's through, he's like sneaky fast, like not like an insane sprinter by any means, but he's got long speed. He won't slow down after 20, 30 yards. He's going to keep building up that speed. So what you need is the Steelers offensive line to create enough holes for Caleb Johnson to see and burst through and get to that second level. So that's the risk you run with Caleb Johnson, where I think, like you both talked about, with like an Aaron Jones and Isaiah Pacheco, you're not as worried about that outright. DeAndre Swift is the one player we didn't talk about.
I'm fine not talking about him.
Okay, but you and I talked about him. And Cameron, you haven't had a chance to say your piece on DeAndre Swift yet. Ty and I disagreed, where Ty thought he had league losing downside. And I was of the essence of, I just don't think the Chicago Bears run game is going to be that bad, and DeAndre Swift is going to be that bad where he doesn't return at least like RB 30, which I don't think is going to lose you your league. So where do you kind of lie on DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, I mean, last year it was right. He had the volume. He had almost 300 touches, but he averaged 3.8 yards per carry. So I don't know. Unless Ben Johnson decides to hate him this season, I don't think he has league losing downside. Which he could. Like, I'm not saying that's all the realm possibilities. I think he proved last year that he can handle the volume, albeit not efficiently, but he could physically handle the volume.
Nothing about Chicago was efficient last year. Literally nothing.
That is 100% true. So I think he's going to get enough volume where he'll fit in this tier. If they crack the code somehow, sure. Could he maybe squeak into the B tier? Maybe. If it's, if he looks real bad and Ben Johnson's like, I'm not doing this again, could he fall into the D tier pretty quickly? Yeah. So I think maybe he could jump up one tier, go down one tier, but I think he's pretty firmly in this range.
We did have slight breaking news happen about a minute ago. The Broncos did waive Audric Estime, for any of you who care. Thought Audric Estime was going to play a nice little role behind J.K. Dobbins, behind an R.J. Harvey this year. get ready to just siphon those touches to J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey this year. That's what it's always seemed to be, is a split between R.J. Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, and whoever the third guy is going to be. Tyler Beatty. He's still on
Jaleel McLaughlin, baby.
Yeah, because we all love the Jaleel McLaughlin experience.
Yes.
It's such a fun ride to be on. Only pro RJ Harvey news from that bet. Let's move to the D tier. I don't want to sit in the C tier anymore. Not that the D tier is really any better. It's David Montgomery, Travis Etienne, Jordan Mason, Tyrone Tracy, Jalen Warren, J.K. Dobbins. Cameron, you named this when we were creating these tiers today. When I was putting all these graphics together, you made the case of like, does David Montgomery actually belong in the C tier? And I kind of pushed back saying, like, I actually don't know. Because I think the reason why we want him to be in the C tier with all those other guys is because we used to all be so pro Monty on this show. Like, I know a lot of other channels were pro Monty, but it seemed like when everybody's like, boring click, I got to draft Monty, we're all like, no, like, I had to draft David Montgomery with top 15 upside. That excitement is gone. Why?
Yeah, it's just you lose obviously both offense or your offensive coordinator, you lose your all-pro center. Regression happens naturally after you score 70 touchdowns in a season and you're a touchdown dependent running back. So it really is just all of those things kind of coming together. I still personally have him in the C tier, so I am gonna just throw that out there. I understand why you guys haven't moved him down. Honestly, I have him one spot below Travis Etienne, so it doesn't make a lot of sense that I want, and it might just be like mentally, I just feel like he needs to, even though I don't have him ranked there. But yeah, it's unsexy, and there just is the touchdown upside just feels more limited than it has in the past, and it feels like the void is only going to continue to get bigger between him and Jahmyr Gibbs as far as touchdowns and usage, because Gibbs is just showing he is that good.
You also lose Kevin Zeitler off of this offensive line as well, which I think is a bigger subtraction that people realize. Frank Ragnow, obviously, that's the one that people are talking about, and that's the most important one, obviously. But I don't think losing Zeitler should be lost to anybody either. And again, it's in between the tackles, which is where David Montgomery is the ground and pound guy for this offense, rather than Jahmyr Gibbs. You're getting him on the outside, you're getting him on all these outside runs, you're getting him in space on screens, you're getting him more valuable, high value touches than David Montgomery, who, yes, still might filter in around the goal line, but no, man, Jahmyr Gibbs has proven capable throughout his first 2 years in the league that he can handle a large workload. Ty, who's the next player in this tier for you? Because it seems like David Montgomery is like at the top of the tier for all of us, but according to your rankings, who's the next person in line in this tier?
It's actually Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason's actually ahead of Montgomery and ETN for me. And I think the simple argument is best offense, or one of the better offenses, because we're talking about Detroit and Denver as well. And Jordan Mason has, for as much as we like Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason has an opportunity to kind of take more work away from Aaron Jones as the year goes on. Again, when we talk Detroit and Denver with J.K. Dobbins and David Montgomery, neither of those guys are going to be taking more work away from the younger guys that they have in their offenses. So I'm willing to take a chance on Jordan Mason, at least to be the kind of second half of the year. I don't want to say league winner, but again, for a guy to start off as the 1B in their offense and end the year as the 1A, and he doesn't have the most complete skill set, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm putting too much on, because again, the guy is going to be downhill. He's got some big plays, or he can have some big plays, I should say. So Jordan Mason's the next guy for me.
I want to loop back on Travis Etienne because he was in between David Montgomery and Jordan Mason for you both. I know Cameron's like, really, we have to talk about this Jacksonville backfield. Do we actually have to?
We're just reminding him that.
That's the only. Just draft Brian Thomas. Don't worry about drafting anybody else. I just the quickest of pieces on Travis Etienne, because I want to make sure we communicate what's actually underneath this spot in our tier rankings. This is not a very confident ranking. If we had a confidence meter on our draft guide, My level of confidence in Travis Etienne would probably be like 2.
Yeah, out of 100.
Out of right, because it could be Bashal Tootin. I've been clicking a lot of Bashal Tootin now where I'm like, you know what? Etienne's ADP is not shifting off of this like RB 30 to 35 range that he's sitting in. I can get Tank Bigsby slightly later, and I can get Bashal Tootin even later. I feel better about those 2 clicks than I do investing in Travis Etienne. Where do you both have Travis Etienne, and what's your level of confidence? Just very, very quick.
I got him at running back 27, top of this tier. I think he's going to be used. I think he's going to. I think it's Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. I think if they're going to trade one, and I think you're going to hear about every week till the trade deadline, which is November 4th, I think Etienne's going to be the guy that they move. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think you're going to be like overly excited with Travis Etienne. Is kind of where I land with him.
Ty, where are you at?
Etienne is right after Jordan Mason and David Montgomery. So I have him towards the top of this tier as well. He's probably the riskiest guy in this tier because your hope is that he gets moved. If not, you're constantly going to be living with the fear of Tank Bigsby and Bashal Tootin eventually kind of taking over for him at some point in the year. So I think maybe my ranking is a bit I shouldn't say it's optimistic, but you have to just kind of look at how things are structured right now. And until something changes, you just kind of know what you're going to be getting is that it's going to be an ETN led backfield.
I want to save Tyrone Tracy for the final tier because we're going to talk about his running mate in the final tier as well. The one piece I want to say on Jaylen Warren, I wonder if we could get him out on the field more often than we expect this year because of how good he is in pass protection. Where do you two like Jaylen Warren isn't a fun click. I don't like clicking on him, but like, how do you balance the opportunity he has to be out there on passing downs with Aaron Rodgers with also just because he's out there on passing downs, he actually has to catch the football then rather than just be you don't get fantasy points by blocking. Like how do you balance and rectify those two things?
My worry with Jaylen Warren is we know what he is. And if Caleb Johnson starts to flashes, it's going to be a quick transition, it feels like to me, of going to Caleb Johnson. So it could be nice where he kind of is like ugly volume his way through the passing game for the first little bit. Like, I'm not saying that's not going to happen for the first couple of weeks, but it does feel like that might go away decently quick if Caleb Johnson kind of starts to figure it out. Just because Warren, last season did not look great. I think it's the best way to put it. So
yeah, that's
that is my concern with him. I think he will have a role. I think he'll be used in the passing game just because, again, they're a team that doesn't really have a wide receiver too. It's Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson's, and it's not like you truly believe in either of those two. So he'll have a role, and I think he's a safe-ish pick at this point. I just don't see any upside with him.
Right, not a high upside pick to say the least. And Ty, I'll come to you for this last one with RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins wraps out this tier, but again, we talk about not Tyler Beatty, Audric Estime, excuse me, no longer being on this team. He's still on the team, but how clearly the winners of that, there's no longer really any stiff competition. Not that Audric Estime was really stiff competition, but no, not another back to siphon touches from a J.K. Dobbins, RJ Harvey. Where's the split for you? How do you see this backfield splitting where you still have RJ Harvey as like this potential top 20 guy, but also J.K. Dobbins as this like valuable potential flex play some weeks for your team?
Yeah, I think out of the gate, we're kind of looking at a top 36 guy just because I think he's going to get the most run between him and Harvey. But then we're going to hit about week 5, week 6, and you're going to start to see a 50-50. And then week 7, week 8, it is going to be more RJ Harvey than J.K. Dobbins. I do think that Dobbins will be able to maintain a role kind of throughout the rest of the year. So then it honestly is kind of a thorn then in RJ Harvey's side that like it won't completely go to RJ Harvey. But at the same time, I don't think that you can look at J.K. Dobbins and just go like, he's one of the best steals in the draft. He's a steal in your draft if you build your team correctly in the sense that like you have a bunch of upside guys for the second half of the year and you just need a guy first 2-3 weeks to just give you 15 points a game.
We'll put a pin on it there. We'll move to the E tier. There's maybe like 3 guys I want to talk about here. This tier is Javonte Williams, Ja'Cory Bill Krosky Merritt. Hello. Ramondre Stevenson, Tyjae Spears, Zach Charbonnet, Cam Scadaboo, Rashad White, Quinshon Judkins wraps out our top 40. Okay, let's start with Bill. I already know what drop we need for Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, by the way.
Yeah,
Bill.
Bill.
So we got to get that drop on the next episode. I literally just thought of that. I'm like, how did we not have that prepped for this
Make
show?
sure it's less than 7 seconds, though.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's less than 7 so we don't get flagged for copyright or anything. But yeah, hello, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. With Brian Robinson out of town, resting in the Commanders preseason game. Look, it seems like he's going to be the starter. So where did he? Let's just do this. Where did he come on the projections for you all? I don't need like a detailed breakdown, like how many yards, the touchdowns. This is what happened, but like, where's he at in the pecking order, and how did it come on your projections?
I have him set as running back 1. But I think it's going to be kind of a 3-headed monster with him, Chris Rodriguez and Austin Eckler. I think it's going to be gross. Brian Robinson was only running back 28 last year, and had 8 touchdowns and 28 points per game, and had 8 touchdowns in 14 games. Yeah. So I just don't know what the ceiling is going to look like. I don't know how much better he actually is than Brian Robinson. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with it. And I just think the other two are going to siphon enough touchdowns that I have him at, where do I have, somewhere in the mid 40s.
43, it looks like.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit lower just because I just don't think I just don't think there's a ton of upside for him.
Ty, I just looked. You and I actually have Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt both as our running back 32. I see it the same way as you, Cameron. I think it's definitely a 3-headed monster that we're kind of looking at here. I think Chris Rodriguez is at the bottom of that totem pole. I don't see him like, it's not a 33-33-33 split between all these guys. But he's going to factor in enough that it's not just a Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt and Austin Eckler, and then like Chris Rodriguez is like a semi afterthought. Like I think Chris Rodriguez has enough juice to actually find himself on the field more often than we expect this year. But anything different than what Cam put out there, Ty, that you see, or like that elevates it to a RB32 compared to Cam's RB42?
Not necessarily. I think I do see a 3-headed monster in this backfield, but I see just enough going Bill's way that he can kind of separate himself just enough to, because I've got Eckler as my running back 50 and Chris Rodriguez is my running back 52. So I've got all 3 of them inside the top 55. So it impacts Bill's ceiling enough that I'm not willing to take him in round 7 of drafts because for whatever reason we want to. That's a little steep.
So rich on underdog, man. I can't get behind that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I just wish people knew exactly what they were getting here, because it's not like Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is going to take this offense to Super Bowl levels.
I'm open to being surprised. Just not willing to bet that on his draft capital. And again, with Brian Robinson only returning RB28 last year, I'm just not willing to bet we get better than what Brian Robinson was last year, given what we do know about Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I mentioned we talk about Cam Scadaboo. Ty or Cameron, I'll maybe ask you the same question I asked Ty. How do you see this backfield shaking out? I asked him about J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey. How do you see it shaking out between Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scadaboo? Because in some weird way, it feels the same, but I could also see Tyrone Tracy holding on to a more valuable role than a J.K. Dobbins would once we start to see more of R.J. Harvey, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a little more Tyrone Tracy, especially with just how much Scadaboo just missed of, training camp with dealing with a hamstring injury, having to work back into it. So you're trying to catch up to the NFL and you're trying to kind of get back into shape off of that. And Scadaboo is not the same level that RJ Harvey is as a prospect, as what's seemingly a talent on this team. So that's why I think Tracy probably has a little bit more of a stranglehold on a starting spot. I don't think either are going to be very exciting for fantasy football. So I think great, he takes over, then he's just where Tracy is, which is like 6 spots ahead of him. Great, he stays where he's at. He's, between running back 37 and 45. So it's like, I don't know. It's a safe running back 4 is essentially what you're getting with and I don't even know if safe's the right word on this Giants team, but
Yeah,
he's
right.
a running back 4 is essentially what you're getting with Cam Scadaboo.
You're gonna chime in here, Ty?
I feel like it's weird to say this because there is a rookie in the backfield with higher draft capital than the starter. But I see this backfield quite literally being a 50-50 split for the entire year.
Could easily.
I don't see one guy stepping up over the others.
Yeah.
I could see if it's like I think where I've kind of landed is like a 55-45, and then like mid-season, like week 9, or after the bye week, it probably flips where Tyrone Tracy probably starts off with the 55, then it goes to Cam Scadaboo, but like, is that enough opportunity and different enough from Tyrone Tracy or Cam Scadaboo to like make an actual difference? Like, I think you named it perfectly, Cam. No matter what, you're probably going to get a running back around the RB 30 each week. Who it's going to be, it's your guess is as good as
and
mine.
the right answer is going to end up being Devin Singletary. We're all going to be
right, 100%.
Like, oh, we should have known not to trust the New York Giants backfield. That's probably
it's going to be whichever one you don't pick, or
Yes.
it's going to be Devin Singletary. That's the correct answer 9 times out of 10. Yes, and the one time you're right, we'll make you think you're going to get it right the next time, and you won't.
Exactly.
Last player. I don't really want to dive into Quinshon Judkins specifically. What we know is that he has not signed a contract yet. The Browns are kind of holding off signing him to a contract until the NFL decides if they want to do anything disciplinary in regards to his incident this offseason. I also want to take the time to recognize we don't have Joe Mixon in these rankings either. We got news today, early Monday, that D'Amico Ryans declined to comment on Joe Mixon's status with his foot injury, sprained foot. Bad vibes, terrible vibes.
Then he's put on the NFL list.
Yeah, Joe Mixon. Look in my projections. I still have Joe Mixon as my running back 27. Look, I'll be honest. You just can't draft him. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna I don't know how to change my projections to like totally reflect that. I want to just give him zeros for the entire year. But you just can't draft Joe Mixon right now. You just flat out can't. Like, just like I don't think you can really draft Quinshon Judkins right now.
Yeah.
I don't think you can draft either.
Yeah, I think the way you just said that is probably where you got to have it. Is they're pretty interchangeable. Wherever you're going to take one, probably take the other. Just because you have no idea when they're going to play. Probably take Joe Mixon ahead of Quinshon, just because at least if Mixon does play, you know what you're getting. If Judkins plays, we still don't even know what we're getting out of him. But I sensed you guys earlier, Joe Mixon feels like where we were at with Christian McCaffrey last year. Obviously not a calf injury, but of like.
Except we actually got good news.
Yeah,
Shanahan was saying he'd be playing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and now it's like
D'Amico just flat out was like, "No, I'm good. We're not going to talk about that."
They put him on the NFI list, so he's out at least 4 games.
He is starting to see. Yes, he is starting the season. Then, yep, on the NFI. Yep.
There's talks that he was getting injections in his foot, which could mean he's out. Probably going to be out closer to 8 games at least. He's 29 years old. He was, has seen a lot of carries in it. So it's like, it's just the fact that they went dark on us that really scares me.
Yeah.
Like, at least with most injuries, you're kind of getting something, but they just went, we're not saying a word about this at all. So yeah, it worries me. And then Judkins, I feel the same way, because it's just like, great. He signs, 3 days before the season. He hasn't practiced with this team at all. I mean, he's got to be a really good NFL talent for them to be like, yeah, we're going to trust you by week 6 as a rookie. So that's what worries me with him as well. He's my running back 47, and I'm probably moving him lower, honestly, after that. So it definitely worrisome for both of them.
By our final edition of the draft guide, which will come on Friday before all of your drafts, like Mixon and Judkins are probably going to be like outside my top 60. because I'm probably only going to have him statted out for 7-8 games max this year. It's not great, Ty. It's not.
Yeah, no. I don't know what else I can say.
It's not good.
Why would you?
Yeah.
There's no need to dig yourself a hole and waste a roster spot on guys who might not even play, who have a serious threat of not even playing a single NFL snap this year. We'll close it out there, fellas. That 40 running backs in that amount of time, I think we did pretty dang good. If you want even more, though, our top 40 wide receivers are coming tomorrow. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when that episode is up. Look, the running backs are fun, but there's a lot more wide receivers to talk about in the league. I think we're going to have a lot of fun conversations around some of these wide receivers tomorrow. If you want to follow our other socials as well, FF Fellas over on Twitter, the FF Fellas over on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook, and the good old TikTok. If you're just a YouTube truther through and through, Fantasy Football Fellas shorts. Fun fact, I am not wearing shorts right now. I am wearing khaki pants right now. So not like the pants
where
I
you
am
were going with that.
I'm just not wearing pants right now, fellas. Pants are off.
He's Winnie the Poohing it.
It's
Like that John Clayton
the John Clayton ESPN commercial.
Taking the hair out then after. Mom!
Oh, if only. Viewers can make what they want out of that. How else do I normally close this out? That conversation got me so off track. We'll be back with wide receiver. Yeah, deuces. That's about all that's left. We got wide receiver rankings. We got an extra episode coming for you all this week too. That was the other thing I was going to say. Quarterback rankings and tight end rankings will close out this week after the wide receiver rankings. So make sure you hang around for that. Mock Draft Monday has also been switched to Wednesday. So if you've hung around on Mondays to mock draft with us, that is being moved to Wednesdays. If you missed, or if the final one will be moved to Wednesday if you missed that. So appreciate you all supporting the channel here. Thanks so much. We're looking forward to an awesome season with you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Deuces.